Welcome everyone to another session of Your Desk University, bringing you live learning with AEC tech experts directly to your desk. My name's Tim and Hazel. I'm a senior technical designer at Walter P. Moore, and you can see next to me Dana DeFilippi from Smith Group. She's going to host our guest tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about Dynamo. We're going to be talking about the top packages that you need to be using or may want to be using. But we also want this to be a conversation with you. So if you have favorite packages, if you have questions about packages, both Dana and Carl Storm, our presenter today, are going to be really helpful in answering questions and talking to you. So bring those comments, bring those questions. Also, if you haven't seen it already, our first session was also really good for people who are interested in Dynamo. John Pearson did a presentation, and we'll post a link in the chat, and you can see that. Use the chat, use the comments below. Dana will coach you through that. But with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dana. Thanks for hosting.
Thanks, Timon, and thanks everyone for joining tonight as always. As Timon mentioned, my name is Dana. I'm a BIM technologist with Smith Group. Our Your Desk University series finishes off in 2 weeks, so please ensure to check out our website for information on those presentations. We still are finalizing some of those. Once again, thanks again for joining us tonight. Please also join us Thursday for a presentation on a really cool Rhino inside Revit. Dane Stokes from ZGF will show us how he performs Revit analytics within Rhino inside, among other things. As Timon mentioned, tonight we are very lucky to have Carl Storms from BIM Track talking on a topic near and dear to my heart, Dynamo packages. As always, please post your questions in the chat so that this is interactive. Of course, if you aren't able to be with us live, we welcome your feedback in the comments below. We would also love for you to post in the comments with common packages that you use in Dynamo. So not in the chat, but in the comments down below. Please share that with us. And now to our speaker, Carl. How's it going?
It's going well. How about you, Dana?
Going pretty well. Thank you. Can you share with our audience a little bit about what you do outside of BIM, how you've been spending your free time these days? I know we got a lot of it.
That's right. And like a lot of people, I've been trying very hard to get the end of that Netflix stream. And I think I'm doing all right. I'm getting pretty close.
Yeah, pretty easy these days.
Yes, sirree.
Awesome. So Dynamo, really awesome topic. I spoke on it a few weeks ago. Really cool things we can do with some packages. So I'm really excited. What do you have for us tonight?
Well, I got some packages, lots of packages. We really want to make this be a conversational agenda, as Timon said and as Dana said. So by all means, put your questions in the workflow. That would be the chat. I've done a version of this session a couple times for the Philadelphia Dynamo user group at AU and Built. And one thing that I've always found doing this session is stuff always goes wrong. Any of you that work with Dynamo know trying to show 20, 30, 40 different Dynamo packages in the same session of Revit causes some issues. So I'm trying to be a little bit different today. We're going to be going through and having a more of discussion about it than trying to do a whole bunch of live demos, but we're still going to sneak some in. And if things crash, Dana will just sing us a song.
I'm not very good at singing, but I'll improvise somehow.
I think you can do it.
Show you something cool. We'll do something. Awesome. And you're in Canada. We know that. Regular commenter in our Your Desk University. So we're missing you there. So make sure that you compensate for Carl's absence in our comments in our chat. So what are some really cool Dynamo packages that you can share?
Well, we've got a few of them, and I think a couple to start with is anything by John Pearson is always a good place to start. We're definitely going to be taking a look at Monocle and Rhythm tonight. He also has bang, which you have to say really loud because I'll show you in a moment. But there's an exclamation point at the end of it. There's an exclamation point. John put it there, so I feel obliged that I must say it in an excited manner.
Does it make me sound really dorky if I say that reminds me of Seinfeld? Anybody else? No. I mean, you're Canadian. Maybe you don't get down with that, but
I do.
I think it was like top of the muffin to you or something.
Nice.
Anyway, we digress.
Yes, yes.
But Bang is really cool. That helps you with warnings, right? Which we definitely have some serious limitations within Dynamo natively, looking at packages.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's kind of how we roll with that package. And we've got several more, and I think now might be a good time to share my screen to show the PowerPoint and jump into this. So uh, if we're ready, I think we'll hit it.
Let's do it.
All right. Or we don't. Host has disabled. See, this is where we have Dana do a little sing for us, a little sing song.
A little sing song. I don't know. Maybe you could sing us the Canada song. I know you guys really, really just love that song, the "Oh Canada."
We love the "Oh Canada." I hear a lot the "Blame Canada" song from the South Park movie. Get that too. All right. There we go. See, I mentioned that I cursed us earlier on by saying that there's going to be technical difficulties, and I forewarned it. All right.
I blame Dynamo.
I blame Dynamo as well. So as we mentioned when we got started, the idea about this particular session is to talk about Dynamo packages. A quick agenda, we don't really need it. We've sort of already talked about it, but the idea is how do we get packages, which I'm going to breeze through because if you're here, you're Dynamo lovers, I think you know about the Dynamo Package Manager. Then we're going to jump into all things packages. I've got 9 categories that I kind of sliced and diced them into. We'll see if we can fit them all in. I also have a little bit on package management. I don't plan on covering that specifically here in the video, but we do have a copy of this PDF that's going to be shared with everybody, so just for future reference. Also, because I have lots of package names that will be coming up, feel free to take screenshots, share on Twitter. We love you to share with everyone, but if you don't quite get it, again, the access to the presentation later will help you about all that stuff. This is me. It's really weird to talk about yourself, so I always chuck in a slide to say I'm an architectural technologist by trade, and I've done all sorts of things in that world. And the best thing I ever did was invest $5 in my nice little logo down there in the bottom. So that's my claim to fame. And with that, let's get on to the packages.
That $5 took you pretty far.
It did take very far. If you haven't used,
I have you back there, right up there.
I saw that. I've seen that a few times, and I appreciate that.
Cost storms in the house always.
Yes, if you've never used Fiverr, give them some love. So how do we get packages? Well, we can use the package manager. And if I quickly take you to the actual real live interweb, you can see that we're just a hair shy of 1,400 packages that have been out there, and we're over almost 2.5 million downloads. So that just speaks to the love of all things Dynamo and how
I gotta say, this is the best thing about Dynamo, right? Just the fact that people share. People come up here, they share their stuff, they put out their packages, their Python, their, all this really cool stuff that Dynamo doesn't do, and they share it up here. Look at it, I have 1,400 packages. I haven't looked at this in a while. That's crazy.
it is crazy, and that is one of the best thing about Dynamo is the community. Very much like the Your Desk University, can't speak English today, community is that we all get together and they all share this stuff. And that's why I like getting this session out there and telling everybody about all the packages that are available, because these people, for the most part, that are creating these packages, they're not in an office where they're getting paid money to do this. They're doing this on evenings and weekends for the love of the game, as we say, to share with the community. So that's a huge thing.
And usually these are the people that are out there on the forums answering the questions, really in the community doing the hard work, getting people working in there and making it easy.
That is absolutely 100% true. And that's kind of the idea behind all these, is giving the people the ability to share. It's also why we need to remember that if there's a package out there you love and it maybe hasn't been updated in a little while, it's not their full-time job. So send them some love instead of some criticism, and maybe we'll get that updated package as we go through.
Absolutely.
with that in mind, as I hop back into the PowerPoint, what I tried to do again to pare down some of the packages that I'm going to talk about tonight was focus on the packages that have been designed for or have been updated to work with Dynamo 2.0 so that we have the ability to work in. I'm going to be using Revit 2021, which means I'm going to be playing with Dynamo 2.5 when we bring in the live samples.
The latest and greatest.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's kick it off by taking a look at what I call essential packages. So what is an essential package? It is the packages that you absolutely must have installed as soon as you download Dynamo or Revit and you get in place. These are the 5 that I think you have to have. Now, again, we've just seen this, but what I like to point out is that it's pretty easy to look at the most installed and think, okay, these are the essential packages. And absolutely, those are some of the greats of all of the packages that are out there.
I'd have all
ArchiLab,
of those for sure.
absolutely. However, if you're stranded on a desert island and you can only have 5, and this is where we'd definitely be seeing some chatter love people, on the desert island with nothing but your laptop, 20 minutes of internet to download your Dynamo packages and 5 packages, what would they be? Go. As you start typing away furiously to add all of these into the comment stream, let me show you my 5. Now, if I had been thinking, I would have done something a little more dramatic and show these in kind of the ability to drop them in one at a time, but here they are in no particular order. Well, that's not true. They are in alphabetical order because sometimes my OCD makes me do things that way. So these are the 5 packages, or I should say 3.5 packages and 1.5 extensions that I always install as soon as I get Dynamo done. And they're going to be ArchiLab by Conrad Soban, the Clockwork package by Andreas and the 2.0 variant. Data Shapes, that's the 0.5 because it's a package as well as an extension. Monocle, which is the extension, and then Rhythm. And if I had to only have one, it would be Monocle. I know Clockworks, I know ArchiLab have awesome package cret, and they have a ton of helpful nodes. But in a world, and I think Dana agrees with this as well, where we maybe want all of our people working on the package to stay in the out-of-the-box environment, Monocle is going to help you sort of the most with that. What say you, Dana? What's on your 5 Desert Island Dynamo packages?
Oh, ArchiLab definitely up there. I actually have found that Steam Nodes does some really, really cool stuff that I can't do in Python. Monocle, I'm right there with you. Even just the labeling of nodes and the version appending, I think that in itself sells Monocle. The package usage doggy,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely. We're
a
going to see
really
them later.
cute dog up there, and Rhythm, absolutely. I would say that I agree with your. I would probably just swap out Data Shapes with Steam.
I've heard of Steam. Steam is a good one. Steam hasn't been updated in a while, so it's a little sketchy in the 2.0 version. I'm definitely getting in the chat here some Spring or Spring Nodes love.
Yeah.
Also another awesome package for sure to get up there. And Lunchbox, another
definitely
good one.
A good one.
Yep. There's again, there's so many out there, and people are definitely. It's like asking what's your favorite sports team, and we're getting it out there. I just saw Timon just post Bumblebee. The funny thing about Bumblebee is Conrad literally today on May 26th updated an updated version that works with Revit 2021 and 2.5. So
that helps with Excel, correct? The Bumblebee package. That's a really, really awesome one, and I spoke on that with occupancy and bringing in key values from Excel. So definitely a huge one there as well.
Absolutely, and that's what Bumblebee does is it focuses on all things Excel. So it's an awesome little package. I almost said toy, but it's certainly not a toy. So that's true. That's true. Just don't let it sting you. I'm going to get brave, and this is where I'm going to open up some Revit here. So if I bring in Revit and we open up Dynamo, this is version 2.5. So this is the latest and greatest in Revit 2021. And we're talking about the out-of-the-box packages and the Desert Island packages, which I think I'm going to rename from Essential to Desert Island, and take a look what we want. So the first one we talked about was ArchiLab. So I'm going to open up an ArchiLab somewhere. I've got an ArchiLab package. Let me see. It's coming. All right. So simple little nodes here. This one is one that John actually showed us when we did our AU presentation. And I should actually mention that when I did this session for Autodesk University 2018, I was fortunate enough to have John as a co-presenter. So we were able to split the time and split the stage. And I felt like I soaked up a little bit of his Dynamo superstar status, just kind of being there, getting some of the sweat as he ran around the stage. It was pretty exciting times, that's for sure. You can also notice that as I'm getting ready to check out the ArchiLab package, that I have a lot of stuff installed on my machine, which also does a lot of toys. One of the things that I really liked when they switched to the 2.0 interface is the fact that the add-ins are now separate. I always hated when they mixed in with the out-of-the-box Dynamo nodes.
Totally agree.
That gave me some heebie-jeebies. If we look at the ArchiLab, you can see we've got the other thing that the masters, I will call them, of the Dynamo package world, they're really good at slicing and dicing their information. So they have nice categories, everything's sorted out. We have all the information. We got beautiful logos. So you can really see the people that not only have spent time, like Conrad, on putting the packages together, but have also spent hours and hours behind the scenes with an actual problem to solve. One of the things that I say when I'm training people in Dynamo, back in the days when I did that, was that it becomes so much easier if you have a real problem to solve. And I don't mean that, if you're learning with a data set that it's not a real problem, but if there's a problem that you have with your workflow, your environment that you're invested in, it makes learning that much more fun. Plus your gear just goes into a different gear. Your brain just goes into a different level to kind of kick into that data set. All right, I think that's enough to set up our friend Conrad here. This one simple node that comes from the ArchiLab package, which just allows us to be able to see where we're pulling information. So out of the box, I'm pulling some doors and door schedule. And what this allows me to do is to pull all of the door category information out of the door schedule. So you have to have a project with a door schedule, obviously. So we click run. I hover over top of here, and you can see that we now have the information of the doors based off of the door schedule. So this is all the information inside the door schedule. I'm sure so I mean, it's a rather, I'm not going to say simple workflow because I don't know what's going on behind that node, but the idea that we've seen we can get information out of Revit, we can get information from views, but now we're able to get information from those schedules. And it just takes it that one more level that if you have a more complex graph that you're making, that is just one more tool in your arsenal now to be able to do that. And as I would say, this is going to be one of your desert island packages. So this is something that's always going to be at your disposable as you're working your way through.
I've definitely used this to grab doors, let's say in my area plan, right? Or specific area boundaries and a specific area plan, but using it as schedule, that's super clever.
Absolutely. Of course, then we go down to our friend from Clockwork, Andreas. Again, a ton of great nodes inside here from a little bit of everything and a little bit of everything, including, I believe, the kitchen sink. So if that actually, there's a package out there called Kitchen Sink that has a bunch of just really random stuff, but it hasn't been updated to work with 2.0. But it's certainly one to take a look at. All right, so Clockwork. There we go. This one I even got pretty colors in here.
Nice groupings.
See, there you go.
See.
And of course, I'm going to talk about this coming up, but one of the desert island ones, of course, is Monocle. So this is where we could get into the doggy.
The doggy.
So what this does is this comes up, and of course it's incorporates the almighty meme. There's no meme, it's not John Pearson. But as you can see, it tells me the packages that are involved in this. Now this one's a little boring because it's set up for clockwork, but I can also add a little note. So if I click this, it goes through the process and it adds a note over top of each instance that came from that package, and it tells me what it is. So now this allows me to have this package, and I'm able to not only group it together, but I now have the ability to say, hey, look, this came from clockwork. So when 2 days or 2 months or 2 years down the road, I open this package up again and go, what the heck was I thinking? At least now I know where these custom packages came from.
Right. Or I'm sure many of us have received a Dynamo file or downloaded one from the forums, and we see red nodes, right? We've seen that, right? And so this, if we had, I actually don't allow myself to share a script at all unless I've used Monocle. I think every single script that I have created, even if it's just a sketchy kind of thing that I'm not necessarily going to share, just for myself, like you're saying, Carl, I come in here and I label my notes. And even the version is so important, right? If I created it, a year ago and I was 3 versions behind in the rhythm package, if there's something going on here where it's broken, I know maybe why.
Absolutely, and that's why I put Monocle at the top of my list, is just the value that it brings in for doing something like that. As far as the cool and fun stuff inside of Clockwork, again, I think we're up to around 400 nodes in there, so clearly we don't have time for that. But a couple of simple ones that we really like, for those of you that do any sort of programming outside of this, the fact that we have the ability to have a math ceiling and a math floor. So it allows you to choose how you want to round up and round down your numbers, as opposed to just the default 0.5. So I have a number of 14.26, and my precision is 0.25. So if I go ahead and run that, you can see that the ceiling rounded up, the floor rounded down, and then we also have this really cool one that says, is it a multiple of? So 25 is a multiple of 125. If I had something other that wasn't, it would tell me it was false. And again, in the crux of it is like, well, that's not really that exciting. But imagine that if you're running a list and you need to add one or multiply one, just these simple things that make that framework a little easier to working our way through.
It looks like we have a question here from Anthony. Since it looks like you've been playing in 2.5 quite a bit, have you noticed graph documentation changing with changes in 2.5? I believe that's what he's asking, is have you noticed a lot of graphs break, or any of your packages breaking, things like that? Let me know if that's not asking anything.
I haven't found much of that. I know, from 1.3 to 2 was a bit of a nightmare, as any time a major release is. 2.2 to 2.3 was a bit clunky, but from 2.3 to 2.5, I haven't really noticed any big sort of issues. It's really been, they've added functionality, and that's kind of all I've run into. Of course, there's always that issue that if you open up a graph pre-2, that you're pushing your luck, as the case may say.
Right.
But I've had pretty good luck with it so far. Speaking
One
of,
thing that I've read on, and I haven't unfortunately myself had much time to play with 2.5, is that Python seems to change in the background with 2.5 in the way that dependencies work and things like that. So just something to look out for those of you playing in 2.5 and maybe have some packages with Python in them, which is very common.
for sure, and I think that had to do with they updated the version of IronPython for 2.5, so that may have been what came into play with there. A few other things I won't talk into because we're already halfway through our time and have talked about 2 packages. But a lot of these packages have fun. So this one, you can see Autodesk University into Morse code. Why? Why not? A little more relevant, being able to see all the versions that I'm using inside of Revit. So what version, what's the actual number, all that's really handy.
Really
And
great for exporting that stuff, right?
absolutely. And probably one of my favorite nodes from the entire Clockwork package is this little guy right here, list.countOccurrence. So basically, it's taking all of the walls, because this can either be type or instance. So it's bringing all the walls, and then it's giving me a list of each unique count. So even though the list that comes out of here is just sort of randomized, it counts them so that I know that there's 8 of this type, 18 of that type. So it really just finds all the ones that are unique and counts them. It doesn't matter if they're side by side in the list or where they're organized. And a lot of times that's the information that you're looking for when you're pulling it out, when you're trying to get it in place. Quickly, I'm going to see what we can do with our buddy here, data shapes. Well, I'm
Data
pulling up.
shapes, really cool package, right? Allows for some really great user inputs.
It does. Then that's really what it's all about, is the idea that you have the ability to create packages that are gonna, or graphs, I should say, that allow you to have that user input and make things look. One of the things, and that I heard at you, and it may have been John that said that, or it may have been Marcelo, the idea that if you show them something like this, if you're trying to get buy-in from your company to give you some time to research and develop your Dynamo graphs, you show them data shapes, because with data shapes you can brand the packages. And as soon as the company say, "Oh, you mean I can put my company logo in here? Here you go, get it
Or
done."
if you're
So
John, your meme.
exactly, which brings to case the next thing here. This, as you can see with a nice parallax demo set, is one of John's data sets that we use from that AU set. And so if I go ahead and run this, what we're going to see is this right here. So this is one of the big things. Now, data shapes isn't just the ability to have these pop-ups, to have interaction with the pop-ups, but that is a huge part of what we do. And you can see I have the ability to say what this package is doing is in the Revit file that I'm in, it's allowed me to go to pick a path of where another Revit file is, and then pull in the view templates from that file. So I pick my path where I want that to go.
I think that's probably, I mean, data shapes is so powerful, but the ability to have a Dynamo script first run, then query, and then run again, right? It's essentially 2 scripts in one.
Absolutely.
So
And
powerful. It saves you as the creator of this script time in pushing that out and standardizing it and all of that.
absolutely. And as you can see with live sets, I don't have any actual view templates in here, but no fear, I load them anyways. And this is how we know and give proper homage to John. He's built in a nice little GIF or GIF, as you want, at the end
Perfect.
to show everything come in place, classic values, and we're gone through. Now, later on, I'm going to talk about extensions. You can see I got a lot of extensions here, but I happen to notice that I have a warning. Perfect time to bring it up. You might be able to see that up here we've got some extensions that pop up. They're kind of easy to see because they're right there. Not all Dynamo extensions appear as tabs. Some of them appear under the view extension. And this one, Browse Warnings, is called Warnimo, Warning and Dynamo Married Together, by Keen. So if I select this, it now shows me the warnings. And if I click on it, it takes me right to it.
Ooh, that's a new one for me, Carl.
And they just updated this about a week ago.
And that's Warnimo.
Yes. And
Very
there'll be
cool.
a slide for it. And the update allows us to actually export the warnings to a CSV so we can inspect them later on down the road. But again, Keenan Momsley does great stuff to put this in place. And, just to be able, you can imagine 2 or 3 nodes, not a big deal. But we've all seen those graphs that have 100+ nodes in there, and you have to scroll out to see it all. You're like, well, where's the warning? This handles it and takes you right to it.
Right.
So again,
Especially, like you said, those huge scripts where there's tons of warnings, tons of things going on.
Absolutely. One of the other things, since we're here, we'll talk about excuse me, Monocle, another one on my desert island list. And I will mention that I may have been given access to a beta release of what's to come. So some of the things you're about to see here aren't available, will be shortly. So for example, the Alignifier, we can see it allows us to align our graphs. So if I select a bunch of items, I can choose how I want to align them, and it aligns them up for us. And because it's an extension, it sits on top. So we have the ability to sort of keep it there all the time.
And how does that differ from the panel there right underneath of the
This?
tabs there? Yes.
It is the same thing. So this is part of that package, but the request was some people like to have it here, so I don't have to come in here and open it
Have
up.
the floating guy and all that.
Correct. We also
And I
have
think
the
this is so important also, just like naming your nodes. Sometimes people leave their graphs a mess, right? And you try to go in there to help them figure it out, and you're like, dude, I can't help you. This
absolutely.
is illegible.
Who doesn't love post-it notes? And again, the idea, because this is an extension, no matter what you do, it stays sitting there. So if I'm looking between my Dynamo, my Revit, the post-it note just stays there. So again, as you're going, it's a virtual post-it note that allows you to put things in place. Super helpful.
I think that's the coolest part about Monocle is there's so many little pieces and parts about it that you just kind of go digging, like you said, like a toy. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's another piece, and there's another piece. And like you're saying, there's more pieces coming out.
Absolutely.
Go, John.
Custom grouping is probably one of the coolest ones. It allows you to choose the name that you want for a group. So background, input, control to Revit, automate info. You can set those to be what you want.
And your company might have standards, set this up.
Correct. So
help you out a lot.
Then we take them, we select them, we say we want it to be part of this group here. And not only does it group it with the color, it puts the name in there automatically.
Game changer.
Now, for those of you that had a very keen eye, you may have saw the elusive dream feature that's coming out. And this is what we call in-canvas alignment widget. Always so creative with the names. So as I do this, you can see that there is this little thing. So now I can just say, align them here. You may have also noticed that there's
that's
a tiny...
similar to Rhino, right? I'm not a huge Rhino user, but I feel like that's something that we see in Rhino. Or
yes, and I think that's John has been toying with the Rhino inside and with Grasshopper, so I think where some of this is coming from. And you'll also see that we have the little drop. So it gives me that same color, it gives me that same input, and everything's put into place. So very cool functionality. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Clippy, which, again,
everybody
John
remembers
puts into
this
place.
from Microsoft, right?
Yes, absolutely. So this allows us to put it in place. And if I click on here, it tells me, I right click, it tells me which comes from. Clippy will tell us that too. So it's very cool functionality inside of here. And the last thing that I'll show in this one, if you've ever seen any of John's most recent presentations, you'll see a bunch of nodes that are blue. And you're like, how do they get to be blue? Well, if we turn on custom node differentiator, any node that's custom is blue. So just at a quick glance, you can see any node that's not out of the box because it has that little blue icon on top. So some really cool stuff
that's
coming.
Huge, because sometimes they have the box behind them, but sometimes they don't.
See, yeah. So if you're having ones that are made with zero touch, you can't tell that it's there.
Like
so
the
again,
element.name, for example.
Exactly. So super helpful to have that out and be able to see what we've got in place and what we can do there. And I know I've given John a ton of love. I'm just going to quickly show you the rhythm package, because there's some new stuff on his most recent that I want to show, and then we'll carry on, I promise. How's that chat window coming?
Looks like Carmine is asking if the align works with the keyboard. She says it does with Grasshopper. We'll have to ask John about that.
We will, because my testing is it doesn't.
Maybe
but
maybe just the first release doesn't.
There
He's
you
probably
go.
already thinking through it.
He's probably coding it right now as he's sitting at home.
Probably.
So a bunch of really cool things in here. I'm not going to touch on them all because we have to carry on. But one of the things that I want to, where did I put it? Here. That I want to talk about. This is some of the latest stuff in the May release for Rhythm. So again, we scroll down to get into Rhythm. Ton of great stuff. One of the things that John's done with his package in the last couple is he split out the DLLs just to get a little on the nerdy side, so that you can also install it if you're using the sandbox. So the nodes that don't need Revit will populate. You can use them. The nodes that require Revit just won't show up. So when I'm using Dynamo for Revit, I get the full meal deal. When I'm using Sandbox, I just get the ones that work with Core. Again, very cool functionality. But what he's done is we'll go into strings, into modifiers. You can see that it now has the ability to take, I'm going to say, a list of things, a string, and bring that into something else. And of course, it's not a string, it's a list.
I also love the way John puts the rhythm in front of his custom nodes. Definitely
Yes.
helps. Definitely helps, especially for those of us who don't get scripts.
Correct. So if you're not using something like Monocle to add that into place, it lets you know where that comes from. In Dynamo 2.6 that's coming out, there's an addition out of the box to help with that may or may not cause some issues with that, but we'll leave that for the Twitter wars. But the idea here is basically this is using the human package. You can say humanizer, which is very similar to what they have inside of Grasshopper. And so it took that code and it made it with underscores. Of course, it wouldn't be a John package if there wasn't a little bit of mocking text here to put into place. Of course, we have our camel text.
Because it's a toy, right? You gotta have fun with it.
That's right. And this one I think is kind of cool. So we have the ability to bring in that string. Let's say only want to have 10 characters. I go ahead and run that. And you can see that it gives me 10 characters and then it just does ... And you can choose whatever it is. The default is ... So you can imagine if you have a limit to how many characters you can put inside of this, you're making yourself a Twitter bot. It can make sure that it only reads the right amount to put into place and get it as we work our way through. So nowhere near enough time on those Desert Island Essential ones, but I want to carry on to show you some of the other stuff that we've got here real quick. So let me hop back into the PowerPoint. So the next thing is extensions. So we saw a little bit about Warnamo and what it does. It shows the warnings. Another package by Keen is Capture Refinery. Again, he likes to capture and refinery. And what this does, if you have been using the refinery package to do your generative design, this allows you to basically capture as a GIF the automation process. So if you need to do a presentation or you need to do a report, it will basically capture a GIF and give that to you so you can use it in other means. He uses it a ton when he posts on LinkedIn and his website. We have the Design Tech View extension. John talked about that in his presentation, the very first one that we did. DynaHub, which I'll show there for those of you that are GitHub users, it's pretty cool. Dynamaps from the folks at DataShapes. Show me in the comments, does anybody remember, and I just drew a blank. I can't remember, it'll come to me. The Google package that everybody loved that then went away. Flux, thank you. I knew it would come to me. Remember Flux, they had the ability to extract information from a map and then put it into Revit. Dynamaps will do that.
Nice.
DynamoHito, again, another extension, and you'll find sort of the running theme with these extensions that allows you to have quick access to information. It's not necessarily things you would find in nodes, but it's a way to improve your experience inside of Dynamo itself. TuneUp, brand new one that comes from the Dynamo team for 2.5 and bigger, that basically gives you stats about the graph that you have. How quick is it run? How slow is it run? How many times it's been run? And then Dyna Standard is a package that allows you, or an extension, that allows you to incorporate your Dynamo standards directly into your Dynamo graph. And this one's pretty cool. So if I hop back into here and close down Doggy. So if I go to, I'm going to just close out of here. I'm going to start a brand new graph, and I go up to Dynamo Standard. So when I click Dynamo Standard, there's a couple things that we can do. So first, I can choose a standard. It allows you, when you set it up, to choose a spot to have your PDF. So it opens the PDF. In this case, it's the instructions for it. But if your company has a standard, I can get to it directly from inside of Dynamo.
Very nice.
It also gives me access to a library. So if I click this, it brings up a library that I've chosen. And when I select that piece of information, I can say extract details, and it gives me information about the name. Now, these things don't show up because I didn't create this graph specifically with this format. It tells me the last time it was saved. It also gives us a PSA, a public service announcement, saying that, well, I'm in 2.0. It was created before that. Stuff may happen. Be warned before you open it. If I close out of there and open a different one that I know is more recent, this 2.5 version, and I say extract details, automatically in 2.3 and up, it automatically extracts the package information from the graph itself. So they changed the way that the graphs work in 2.3 and up. So it automatically extracts that information. And then I can just say open file, and it opens that file for me. So it's gone to that file location where I dove it, and it pulls up that file for me. So it's pretty cool to put that in place.
Very cool.
We also have the ability to have templates. So all of the different template packages that you may have. So if I click that, it's going to start a brand new package project with that template.
Definitely something Dynamo cannot do. We see trickery with the samples folder, right?
Yep.
This is pretty major.
And so that makes it super easy. And you mentioned earlier, let me find Python. So if I put a few of these in my script, we also can template out Python. So if I go back in here and I choose my Python template, I have to select one. Option 1, I want my Python template. So it brings up a little dialog box.
And different things.
Correct.
For it all set up.
And do I want it to be just that note at all of them? I say apply. And then if I edit this, all of that information is available for me.
Very nice.
And there's basically 3 different ways that can work. That it's all versions of the same thing, but it allows you to bring them into place. So super cool little add-in if you like things. We've used OCD a couple times. You like to get those standards in place.
Definitely.
I'm also going to quickly show DynaHub, and then I gotta move on. But what DynaHub does is, for those of you that like the ability to work with GitHub, is if you log in, which it's not letting me do.
One thing I really love, since you have the search up here, is if I know, like, for example, the select in view, I'll search for that and find the section in which that node lives in the package and see what other nodes live in that section. Because sometimes it's kind of hard to find in there, right? If there's hundreds of nodes within that package. So definitely a little trick there. If you click on the little underneath of the node name, you guys can see there in the script while he's getting his GitHub up. Just click there; it will actually take you to the section in the search bar there in the library.
Correct.
Where that node lives. So definitely a nice little feature to figure out what other nodes within that grouping exist. So.
And just the right amount of knowledge to impart as I get into GitHub. You can see it now says, "Hello, Carl." It knows who I am. I can browse GitHub, and it's going to show me any of the repositories that I have. Now, right now, the only one I have, it sounds like a broken record, is John. So now that I select that repository, it gives me the information from within it. And this is actually this is part of a hackathon that we did with the Hack and Black folks, myself, Jason Bonham, Adam Thomas, and Marcelo Scamboloni, and of course, John, where we created a package. But what's even cooler is that if I come in here and say get packages, again, I can pull up the repository. It retrieves the repo. I can select it. I can say get all packages. So it's downloading the packages. Go OK. It's going to restart. And then when I restart Dynamo, you're going to see that there's going to be a new extension there called the DAM. So if you're doing a lot, and this is becoming more and more common, that people are storing their package, storing their open source content on the GitHub, that now we have a direct link to that through DynaHub. And while that's loading back up, great time to keep on trucking. Some things that aren't in the package manager. So a lot of times when people are putting things in place, for whatever reason, they choose not to go via the package manager. So Beyond Dynamo is one that's another extension. DynaShape, if you're into really cool physical stuff, like physics, that is the package you need. Lunchbox, Nate Miller now looks at that on his Proving Ground website. Orchid, bunch of stuff there. And then Topologic. So this is a package that allows you to do geometry, lightweight geometry inside of a Dynamo. It's super cool. You may have seen some tweets with Sean and Wassam doing stuff back and forth with Test Fit. Well, that's popped up. You can now see that it loaded the DAM. And we've got it in place, and we've got all of that little set that came up. One of the other things that I want to mention, and we're getting deep into it here, but I'll pull it up quick. One of the other things that I didn't mention about the soon-to-be-released version of the Monocle package is this simple search. So we all know what of a pain in the keystroke it is to find stuff inside of Dynamo because of the search. So now we have the ability to search almost instantaneously for content that you're looking for. You can see the node name, node description, node category. And then when we select on it, boom, right there directly inside of it. So
you almost have to know sometimes, right, that it's element dot or, those special characters to go looking for certain nodes. So that's huge, right?
Absolutely. And like I say, so the idea that we have the ability to search tells you where it comes from. So certainly not one to take a break and rest on his laurels. John is kicking it for sure.
And it looks like he's joined us. 60-second Revit is John Pearson himself. So make sure you get on Twitter, follow him. He definitely creates some really awesome stuff, posts some awesome stuff. So an ode to John there.
All right, we are going long, so I'm going to start just talking about some of these packages as we look at some of these lovely comments in the back. Visualization. A lot of people like visualization. I did an AU class on this. Mandrill, data shapes, and node model charts are some awesome packages that allow you to do visualization inside of your model. And I don't even have the right model, so let's skip that. This I do have open, and we always give love to Revit and to Dynamo. I felt remiss if I didn't give a little love to Civil 3D because we've had the ability since 2020 to actually access Dynamo inside of Civil 3D. And as you can notice up here, instead of an R, it's got the little C.
I've actually been meaning to watch Paulo's AU presentation, which is one of the creators that you mentioned of the packages.
Correct. And as you
latest and greatest stuff.
Absolutely. So this Autodesk package is the one that Apollo created, which is the Civil 3D tool set. And there's a ton of stuff in here. And while it is a Civil 3D package, it'll work with regular AutoCAD stuff. You just need to be in Civil 3D because as of yet, we can't access Dynamo directly from vanilla AutoCAD. But a lot of cool things. And I mentioned earlier about John's package being able to separate the Revit content from the core content. So you can see I've got the Rhythm package installed, and the stuff that's not Revit related is available to me here inside of Civil 3D. Likewise with data shapes and Dynamo and beyond Dynamo that give you this sort of functionality that we have to select things and use them in place. So ton of stuff there on the Civil 3D side for those that are working outside of the Revit environment, bring into place. These two down here, Link DWG and Link DWG2, they started out as ways to interact with AutoCAD, just vanilla AutoCAD with Dynamo, and that's why there's two versions. Rather than recreating from scratch, you just split the set, and the DWG2 has a lot of stuff specific to Civil 3D, but also gets you into the AutoCAD world, if it were. Some MEP and structural content.
An MEP over was mentioned. Definitely one I have within my packages.
Absolutely. If you're going to be working with that kind of stuff, you absolutely need to have that. That's one of the go-to. If you're on MEP, that would be on your desert island list for sure. Simplex, that's a structural package that also gives you the ability, and I would be remiss if I didn't show this. So Simplex, close, no.
While you're opening that up, we do have a question about any niche type of packages that you found.
That's kind of a great question because this one is very niche.
Perfect.
So as you can see, it gives us access to eTabs, it gives us access to RAM, it gives us access to SAP, and it gives us access to Tekla. None of those are Autodesk products.
Right.
So it allows us to work outside. And the other thing that this does is it gives us access to, well, not only Marcelo's legendary geometry, so it's going to create a moose here as we wait, but also the ability to import and export information from a Word document. So you can think that if you're working with information and you need to pull stuff, especially on the structural side from the spec sheet, and what you have as a Word doc, this allows you to access information from a Word doc. There's a very similar package, and I shouldn't have hit OK because it takes a long time to create a moose. I'm from Canada, I know these things. The other package that is, and it's just off the screen here, is called Dynamo PDF. So the same idea, it allows you to access information from a PDF and bring it into the Dynamo environment. So again, if your specs is in a PDF, you can pull information from that and have access to it directly here inside of the ability to get it in place. I see one of the questions is anything that helps with Inventor. I don't know if any from Inventor, but we've got Alias, we've got Navisworks, we've got there's another one, Formit, and we have a moose. There we go. I always forget F5 to bring it in place, but we definitely have a moose. And we're getting near the end, and this is definitely a time for a shameless plug. So I'm going to take it while I got it. Speaking of the moose, the next DOC event is on the 24th of June, and it is absolutely going to be Marcelo talking about Rhino inside of Revit and comparing Grasshopper graphs and Dynamo graphs and doing a actual live via Zoom example of both. So we've got 2 hours with Marcelo and the moose. So stay tuned for more information on that as we hop back to our regularly scheduled program.
That sounds fantastic. And of course, Thursday, we are also going to be talking about Rhino Inside on your desk. So Rhino Inside all over the place. Really, really cool stuff, you guys.
Absolutely. And we're coming to the end. We talked about Office, again, ties in very well with Simplex. So for Word, Dynamo PDF or PDFs, and then a couple that work with Google Docs. So if you need to get things into Google Sheets, you can do that.
Wow.
Be warned when you're working with Google Docs, as you need to use a token and there's permissions, and it might not be as easy as something that's on your local machine like Excel, but it is doable through either one of these particular packages. Graphs. So we've been spending all this time talking about where we get packages. Sometimes it's handy to have a graph. So BIM 1 puts out these blog posts every couple months where they talk about, hey, this is a package that does this. These are some graphs that we've made from it. And then they actually give you the ability. Let me just sort of show one here. They kind of give you the ability to download the graph, to have a little video, and it takes you to the Dynamo form, and all the information's there. So it's great to know about custom packages, and it's great to learn on your own. But sometimes it's helpful to have that little bit of a helping hand through it. So I just thought,
not why create the wheel if it's already been created, right?
Exactly. And it's one of those things where it's just offered up and available to go. If you're looking more for like a true learning environment, again, no affiliation, but these are a couple of sessions by Michael Kilkelly. And the reason why I bring them up is because the way that they work, and he's looking at to have a third one, is the idea that every Monday you would get an email with a fully documented script or graph, as well as the actual graph itself. And the idea is that everybody's very busy, and you have the ability to take a graph, sort of learn it through screenshots, and have access to the content. So I thought that was a really sort of ingenious way to learn a new skill, learn about new packages, and have content sort of delivered directly to your door.
And new nodes, right? I mean, like you were saying, some of these packages have hundreds of nodes. It's sometimes impossible to know everything in there. Sometimes just Googling or looking on the forum, I'll find a node that I already have that does what I'm looking for. So the education on the nodes, I think, is also really, really awesome. And then
Well, and
also workflows, creating in dictionaries and different things like that that really advance not only your Dynamo ability, but the speed of your Dynamo graph.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point, because there's a lot of packages out there that have very similar nodes. And if you find out that, hey, I always download this package for this one node, then you find, hey, I can do that in Clockwork, or hey, I can do that in Rhythm. Because for those that know how to have to keep up the back end of this, and Dana talked about this a little bit in her talk, where do we put everything when we have 50 different packages? You wouldn't want to be the IT guy that has to look after my 50 packages and deploy it to an entire firm. So knowing that you can get similar content from a package you already use is huge. And then this is right at the end, all those other packages that we didn't have time, that didn't fit into a specific category, that we definitely should take a look at.
And we will provide the PDF, right? So you guys can look at all this. I will say Genius Loki has some really awesome stuff in it.
Yes, so Genius Loki is awesome. I'll also point out, I know a lot of people love to dive into their journal files inside of Revit. This is a Dynamo package that is specifically aimed at all the things to be able to access in that journal file. So awesome, awesome package there as well. One more, and then I'm done, is the BIM coordinator. That's what TBC stands for, Python. He's basically teaching himself Python. And what he's doing with his package is, as he teaches himself, he creates a node, and then he gives you access, with like all Dynamo nodes, to go through and learn how he walked through actually creating that. So it's actually a learning tool. So the nodes 100% functional, but when you go back inside, they're very well documented, and he sort of walks through the process that he went through to get to that. And they're not super complex. They're like hello world type stuff at the beginning. So again, if you're looking to learn a little more about Python and Dynamo, that's a great spot to begin.
Absolutely. Well, Carl, you have shown us so much awesome stuff, and it's just the iceberg, right? It's like there's so much fun stuff to play with and to explore within Dynamo. All of our awesome communities provide us. So thank you for going over all of that. As I mentioned, we will provide the PDF within the comments after the presentation. So definitely check that out so you can look through all of this awesome information and make sure that you guys get all the packages that you need. Any final thoughts that you have?
I think this has been awesome. I really appreciate you guys inviting me to be part of this initiative. I'm looking forward to what's new, and really just get out there and don't be afraid to download a package you've never heard of. That's how I found a lot of these. Just give it a shot.
And absolutely, check out the forums. You'll find out some really cool packages that people are using. The example that you showed before, dynamopackages.org, I believe it is, that shows you all the latest and greatest. Please, you guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. This will help you guys and others find videos related to your desk. Thank you, Carl, for presenting tonight. Really appreciate it. Some really wonderful information. And thank you all for the wonderful comments that we had tonight and you guys sharing the packages that you use as well as some of the nodes you use. Really helpful. Looks like the comments aren't available for you to add to until after the presentation is over. So if you guys could go back and add some of the comments so that they will last in time forever, that would be fantastic. Again, Thursday we have Rhino inside Revit. So definitely check us out then. And thanks again, Carl. You guys have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night.